What's up everyone, photographer Ronix from Ronix Photography, and today we are going to be doing retouching of this image, and we're going to be using frequency separation. And unlike my usual images, my usual retouching of these images on my channel, I've been using a mixer brush tool to retouch these images. And before I can retouch this image, let me first give credit to the photograph of this image. This image was taken by Wale Visuals and was part of his third retouching challenge. And yeah, this is the image we are retouching. And for this tutorial, we're going to be using frequency separation, and we're going to be using a mixer brush tool in Photoshop. And I'm not going to do any actions. I'm not going to use any actions for retouching this image. And if at all you really want to follow along, keep tuned. And yeah, so this image was taken by Wale Visuals, and I'm going to put his uh, YouTube channel. I'm going to link his YouTube channel down in the description so that you guys can check him out on YouTube. He's an amazing photographer. So usually for my frequency separation, I start by duplicating the background layer twice, making two copies of this background layer, Ctrl J twice. So you can name this the lower layer, you can name it color, or you can name it, yeah, the blur layer, or low frequency. So either can do for you. And for the higher layer, I'm going to name it texture. I don't want to make things complicated. So this is what we are going to do. These are the two layers we're going to use for our frequency separation. So a brief information about frequency separation. Frequency separation divides the image into two, that is the color and the texture layer. And yeah, this is what we are trying to do right now. So just come right to this eye icon and deactivate your texture layer. Come to your blur or low frequency layer or the color layer, and come right here to filter, blur, gaussian blur. So what we are going to do, we are going to blur out the texture so that we can remain with the color of this image, but while preserving the major details of the model, like the eyes, the nose, and the lips for this model. So we are going to move the radius until we can see less of the details of the skin of the model. So we are going to drag the radius. Make sure you're really careful with this step, because to determine the overall output for your image. So we are going to drag this. I think 10 is fine because I've blurred out all the skin texture and I can still see the details on the model's face. Click OK. Then come right above to the texture layer and deactivate it by clicking on this eye icon. Then come to image, apply image. So when you come to apply image, remember this is the detail for the image, the source or the image name, and yeah, this is like the file name. So the layer we are going to subtract the texture from is the color layer right here. So just come right down and select your color layer, and remember we are subtracting the texture from this color layer. So come to your blending option right here and select subtract. So when you click on subtract, make sure your scale, yeah, is at 2 and the offset is 128. So when you do this, your image is going to completely become, you'll get this gray kind of look, and you'll see all the texture of the image in this layer right here. So come to your blending options and click linear light. So when you click on linear light, your image will come back the way it was initially. So we are going to group these two layers, the texture and the blur or color layer. Select them, click Ctrl or Command on, for mark, and drag them right down here. Or you can select them and click Ctrl G on the keyboard to group them. So come right above, come to your uh, color layer, and before you can do this, let's first get rid of the blemishes in this image before we can apply our lasso tool and blurring out, fine tuning this image using frequency separation. So come right to your texture layer, and for removing the blemishes you can use this right here, your spot healing brush tool or the healing brush tool, or you can even use your patch tool. But for I found out that the patch tool works good for me because it helps me manually select and sample areas of the skin and paint over the blemish to get rid of it. So I'm going to zoom in the image to start removing the blemishes. Make sure when you're removing the blemishes, you are on your texture layer, because that is where the blemish is. It is not in the color layer. So sample, click Alt to sample from a clean area and paint over the blemish. Sorry about that. You sample from right here, you can see, and paint over the blemish. Yeah, sample and paint over the blemish you want to remove. So I'm going to forward this because I don't want you guys to keep on waiting as I remove the blemishes. So I'll see you when I'm done with removing these blemishes from the model skin. Yeah, welcome back guys, and I think I'm done with removing most of the blemishes from the model skin. You can see the before and the after, so you can take your time when you're removing the blemishes from the skin. So right now we are going to start blurring out the texture from the image and fine-tuning the skin texture of the model. Select your low frequency layer or your color or blur layer, and come to your lasso tool. So make sure your feathering is at around 20 pixels, because we don't want harsh transitions. If at all your feathering is like at 0 or 10, 20 is really fair enough. So zoom in and select according to the shape. Only select on the skin area of the model. So just select according to the shape, and be careful not to select these parts like the eyebrows. So remember, we are using a lasso tool, so be careful while you are making these shapes. So come back right to filter. Make sure you are on your color layer or the blur layer. Come to filter, blur, then Gaussian blur. So we are going to blur out the texture on this image. So we are going to start moving this until we find the best or the sweetest spot where the skin looks good to us. So I'm going to blur. I think we are going to go in for a realistic texture for this image. I think let me add a little blur. So we're going to go with 34 for this image. So make sure when you're blurring, you blur out until you see the image is not plastic, until the skin texture is really fine and it looks natural. So we are going to apply this very effect on the rest of the image. So select according to the shape. Yeah, remember to select according to the shape, and don't go beyond the boundaries of the face. So you can right click and apply the effect. Yeah, So come and select on the other areas and apply the effect. If at all you apply the Gaussian blur and it is too much, you feel it is too much, make sure it is still active, your selection is still active, and come to Shift Ctrl F and reduce on the opacity. You can see when you reduce on the opacity, it reduces on the effect of the blur on the skin. So that's how you can reduce on the effect. So come and select according to the shape and apply the effect. Yeah, really take your time when you're doing these selections, and make sure you apply the effect on each and every area of the skin, because we don't want to have unnatural stuff of an unprofessional work at the end of the day. So just keep on applying this and select according. Make sure you don't select the lip area, because it may end up distorting the original color of the lipstick, and you know makeup artists hate it when we photographers mess up with the original work too. So make sure you're really careful with this blurring out, and don't cross to the lip area and maybe the eyeshadow area of the model. So we can see our progress for this image right now. So you can see before after. The skin looks smooth, but the detail is still there. So make sure you don't forget the nose area. And one tip about the nose area, make sure you don't apply the effect right on the middle of the nose, and if at all you do, yeah, let me first show you guys. I'm going to apply it right here. So make sure when you're in the nose area, just come and select this side of the nose separately. Don't apply the effect on the overall nose, because it's going to flatten the nose, and your model is not going to look nice at all after you have retouched the image. So what I'm trying to mean is, when you select this area right here, you see this middle area, and apply the effect, it is going to flatten the nose, and you lose out on this highlight. So if at all you apply the effect like this, come to Shift Ctrl F and fade this effect completely, so that you can retain back. I think 10 can do. Remember, now we still have that highlight on the nose area. So I think we are done with the face area. Yeah, just keep on making selections of the skin and applying the effect. So remember, we had more texture on the face area of the model. So for that texture too, remember, we have less texture down here, so you can keep on reducing on the effect of the Gaussian blur you're applying, because this area right here is smoother than the face and has less texture. So you can see the blur is too much. Come to shift Ctrl F to fade and reduce on the effect right here. So keep on applying the effect on each area of the skin, and don't leave anything undone. So I've been getting so many questions about how I did retouch this image. Yeah, and this is how I did it. So I think you can see the amazing power of frequency separation, and you can see the before and the after. Before after, the image looks nice and beautiful at the end of the day. And yeah, this is how I did retouch this image. And if at all you would like to go ahead and do a little bit more adjustments, like the global dodging and burning, we can still go ahead and do it for this image. But for the frequency separation, we are done doing the frequency separation on this image. And yeah, before I can do my global dodging and burning for this image, let's first do a little bit of color grading for this image. And I'm going to be using my gradient maps and selective color. So first of all, let me use my selective color, and while on the red channel, I'm going to add a little bit of cyans to the reds and some little bit of yellows to the reds. I think we are done with that. You can see the before and the after. So I'm going to come right down to my gradient maps and click right down here, and yeah, the image is going to turn like this. And if at all you don't have all these swatches right here, click on the gear like icon and select look for photographic pruning and append, so you'll get all this. So I'm going to go in for this color right here because it is close to the skin tones, and click OK. Come right down here to the blending, and yeah, for the blending you can either go for multiply or soft light. So when you go in for multiply, it will be too much for your liking. Just come and reduce on the opacity of the effect on the image. So I think we are done doing the color grading. So I'm going to group this, Ctrl G to group them, and I'm going to rename this to color grading CG for my color grading. You can see the before after. So this we are done with the color grading. So let's do a little bit of global dodging and burning to this image. Come right down here to the curves adjustment layers, and first of all we are going to brighten. Remember, when we are brightening the areas, we dodge the highlights, that is brightening the highlights, and we burn the shadows, that is darkening shadows. Because when we are applying our frequency separation, it kind of flattens the image, so that's why we have to do the global dodging and burning. So make sure this right here is selected, click Ctrl I to invert the effect or hide the effect, and name this dodge right here, and come back to your curves, right, and this time we are going to darken. So make sure this is selected, Ctrl I to hide the effect, and we are going to name this burn. So select the two layers and Ctrl G to put them in a group. So you can name this dodge and burn. I'm sorry, I'm using abbreviations. And we are going to do our global dodging and burning. So we are enhancing the lights and shadows in this image, and usually I prefer to create a black and white layer on top of my burn layer to guide me where to do the burning and the dodging. So come to your red channel and darken it. I think this is fine. Then I'm going to come right to my frequency separation layer, and I'm going to turn it off because I want to see where my initial highlights and shadows were. So come to your dodge layer, select your brush tool, make sure the opacity is really low. I'm going to use around 9 or 10% for this image, and the flow is at 100. Make sure it is a white brush right here. Make sure white is on the foreground because you're going to be painting on a black mask. So when you're doing this, make sure you don't totally zoom in. So we are just going to enhance where the highlights are in this image. So you are painting with a white brush, remember. So we had that there, and we are going to enhance this. And to increase on your brush size, use the left and the right brackets on the keyboard. So enhance that on the chin area. You're going to come to the shoulder of the model, and we are going to enhance this highlight right there. And if at all you make a mistake, make sure you toggle here and you get your black brush and paint over the effect you had applied to get rid of it. So we are enhancing the highlights right here. Sorry, I even misspelled my dodge. So come to your burn and still do the same. So right now we are enhancing the shadows. So come to the nose area right here on the nose bridge and enhance, paint over that area. So we are going to enhance this area too, and paint over here. I think we are done with our global dodging and burning. So turn back your frequency separation layer and come to your black layer right here, black and white layer, and delete it because right now it is useless. So you can see the before and after our global dodging and burning. You can see we added dimension to this image. Yeah, so this is how I retouch this image, and I've been getting so many questions about how I did retouch this image. And yeah, this is how I did retouch the image. And let me show you guys an overview about our retouching. So we did frequency separation. So this was the image before, after, before, after, and we did the color grading. This is the before, after, before, after, and we did our global dodging and burning. You can see the effect. So let me put all this in a group, Control G, to show you guys our overall work right now. So this was the image before and this was the image after. Before, after. So guys, if at all you love this video, don't forget to hit the like button and drop a comment in the comment section, and don't forget to subscribe if at all you have just landed on this video. I'm Ronix from Ronix Photography. See you in yet another retouching tutorial on this channel. Thank you for watching, and keep creating, keep retouching.